What is going on, all of you amazing gamers out there in the world? I am MegaAmpster. Thank you for checking out this YouTube video. Whether you're a new or returning viewer, thanks for being here. Really appreciate all of the support. It really means a lot to me. Speaking of meaning a lot to me, I literally just an hour ago, as of this recording, wrapped up my first time with Tunic, which those of you who don't know, this game was released in March of 2022, so almost 2 years ago as of this recording. It is an indie game created by Finji Studios. I believe it's their first game. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But essentially, at its core, and I say at its core because there's so much more beyond it, but at its core, it is a traditional 2D Zelda game, like the old top-down Zelda games, in terms of combat and exploration and puzzle solving. It also has kind of, it's much more difficult than some of those Zelda games, I will say. I've seen it compared to Dark Souls. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know if it is, but definitely the main inspiration is like traditional Zelda. But there is so much more beyond that. It gets kind of absurd. I can't really get into some of that stuff without getting too spoilery. So the way I'm going to structure this video is first half, kind of talk about some of the lighter, less spoilery stuff about the game mechanics and how the game works overall. And then second half, I do want to dive a little bit into some of the deeper mechanics and puzzles. And those are very contingent on spoilers. So if you can go into this game completely blind, I would highly recommend it because I think you really get a lot more out of the game when you do that. I certainly did. What I'm going to do is just jump into a quick little, very brief, very beginning of the game gameplay session here. So as you can see, if you're not a fan of like the hand-holding type of games, this game's got you covered because they just drop you right into it. You just wake up, you just happen to be a fox in a tunic, you're sleeping on a beach, you wake up, and then you start moving. Like, there's no hour-long intro cutscene or any of that. Nope, you just jump right into it. This is one of those games that you find out more about the world as you play. It's very gameplay intertwined, which, you know, some people prefer, some people don't. It's not that cinematic game. Gameplay is first here, and I think it exceeds at that. But the lore in this game goes kind of crazy if you look for it. Definitely optional stuff, but if you look for it. The combat is pretty much like you would expect from a 2D Zelda game. I will say there are fewer items in this game, like fewer specific items compared to like a traditional 2D Zelda, but I do really like the core combat overall. Of course, entering the cave, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this stick. Okay, sure. You can see here on the HUD, you can equip different items to X, Y, and B, and these all make sense as you go through. I won't say what some of these things are because you'll figure them out as you go. But one thing I will say, I am playing this on Xbox Series X. That's what I played it on. It is on multiple platforms, including Switch. I've heard the performance isn't super great on Switch, so that's definitely a bit of a thing to keep in mind, but it would probably be a really good portable game if you're okay with the performance not being as great. I just think performance-wise on Xbox it's fantastic, and of course, like you've probably noticed it already, visually this game is super striking. Simple, but extremely stylized, has the top-down 2D Zelda look, but also just like the cell shading. It just looks so clean in this game. Like, for me personally, I'd prefer to have a game like this at 60 frames, but it definitely, I'm sure it works well enough on the Switch. You might have seen from when I looked at the mailbox here, but these weird random symbols, right? I won't say what those are, but there's definitely a bit of something going on with those in the game. You might be able to infer what it might be, but I'll save it for the spoiler section. But it's one of these games where like, oh, I can't get through these bushes and I can't cut them down with a stick, so I gotta go find something else that can maybe break those down, you know? It's one of those games where you're gonna explore over time, kind of open up. So yeah, the combat's pretty good. I do like the dodging element, feels really nice. Of course, you got your lock on like a traditional Zelda game as well. So it's nice to go back to a game like this after something like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, because it makes me realize how much I enjoy that core gameplay formula of the traditional Zelda games. But this game has definitely, I don't want to keep comparing it to older Zelda games, but it definitely has its own unique identity as well. Because at the core gameplay is like that, but it goes beyond. Without getting too much into spoilers, it's so hard to talk about this game without getting into spoilers. So yeah, visually, it looks great. The combat's really good. It just feels great to play. It really genuinely does. It is challenging, though. I'm not going to sit here and say it's challenging. So you see I got my health and I got my stamina on the bottom left. And so it definitely, especially early game, when you don't have too much of a way to defend yourself, it definitely gets really tricky. But I'm going to see if I can get to it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it in in this game. Actually, I may not. I'm trying to think. There's one specific element of this game that makes it really stand out from other games that, at least that I've played. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We found a key for the door. Look at that. I'm really trying to see if I can get that far. You can see here, though, there's the overworld. It's so alive. There are a bunch of different enemies roaming around. And it's a beautiful looking game. I mean, especially on Series X. But, you know, I'm sure even on Switch as well. So, yeah, I'm definitely limited by where I can go. But what I will say, I'm just going to, because I don't want this video to be too long, and I don't think I'm going to be able to collect one of them in time. I'm going to keep this as light spoilery as possible, but it is a main component of the game that I really think you should know to maybe sell you on this game. So light, very, very light spoiler warning. Give it a few seconds here. Oh, actually, perfect timing. Perfect timing. So what makes this game different from something like a traditional 2D Zelda, and honestly, I think kind of better, but that's beside the point, is what this is here. You collect these different pages of a booklet. And so you might be thinking, oh, like, what is this? Just like some piece of paper with two things in the back. If any of you are older gamers, you may be familiar with this concept of what's called a game manual, where we used to have, you know, we don't really get them anymore. Do they even have e-manuals anymore? Let me know in the comments below. In a game case, you would get a physical manual that explained certain elements of the game, maybe a bit of the story, maybe the controls, things like that. So like we collected this page, like, okay, you can see there's like some checklists here. All right, there are some more of those weird symbols there. Little cute drawings of like, I assume that, I don't even know the fox's name. Is it Tunic? I don't even know if it is. And some of the enemies there. Golden door looking thing with some pillars there. The power to defy death. Like, okay, it's already getting dark. This game does go places. It gets dark. And then here it's like, okay, now we get a little bit more of the UI. So you can see this health, stamina, magic, pointing a bunch of elements like prize treasure. This is like this is the first page that you have to get. But you can see the page numbers, you know, marked, oh, 10, 11. Like, okay, there's probably going to be more. So the whole thing that makes this game so much more unique than something like a top-down 2D Zelda is as you go, you are collecting different pages of the manual. They're not all mandatory, I will say. There are definitely some optional ones, and in fact, that's a big like optional quest in the game is to collect all of them. But with some of these specifically, you definitely need to kind of do this. And like I was saying earlier, like it's not a cinematic game, right? It does not hold your hand. It just throws you in there and you have to explore. But that's where this game shines. And that's what makes this game amazing. One of the amazing reasons about this game, just for me, like being a great game, is just the fact that it doesn't tell you the mechanics outright. You collect these different pages and you experiment. And you could be like, all right, like looking at this, you know, I can see, okay, there's some kind of magic abilities because I see a magic points meter. And there are other page numbers talking about magic potions and things like that, and different little things there. There's an important note down there. They give you little like tips and tricks and stuff. And then like, I mean, even here on this page, like, okay, there's some checklists. Maybe those are things that I have to do, right? They're different tasks I have to complete to progress in the game. So not only does it explain like mechanics and potentially story of the game, it also explains just like where you're gonna go, like what your objectives are. So in that way, it's nice. Where it's, I know I keep bringing this comparison up, but compared to something like NES Legend of Zelda, listen, I'm not going to completely throw it under the bus in this video. I think I've already made a video talking about that before. I think the original NES Zelda is a horrible game to play nowadays. I understand when it was released, it was a huge deal. It was revolutionary. Nowadays, it is so tough to go back to. I did like 5 years ago, and man, you need a guide for that game. This game, there were a few moments, and I think almost all of them were optional, where I did pull up a guide just for like a little nudge, you know, a little bit of a nudge, especially regarding some of the puzzles that were optional and I wanted to complete. I brought up that guide for it, but a lot of it, everything you need is in this manual. When you collect the different pages of the manual, there weren't really, besides maybe a couple of those optional quests and like things to collect, like nothing seemed too cryptic. Which is honestly, it's more than I can say for some Zelda like elements and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really hard to achieve that. But I think this game manual, a lot of it's probably nostalgia for someone who really liked reading game manuals growing up. But there's definitely, it's such a cool way, almost a bit meta. This game gets meta at times. a bit of a meta way to introduce these kinds of gameplay elements and story. You know, not necessarily through the environment. I mean, a little there is environmental storytelling in this game, and not just telling you directly in cutscenes. They just give you these pages and they say, you do have to do some reading in this game. Read it, figure it out for yourself, and if you do, like, there's some really rewarding stuff in here. There's also, all of these pages are going to have something like that you won't notice until later when you unlock more stuff in the game and you're like, oh, that's what this is. You know what I mean? It's connects the dots. It's honestly wild. There's honestly not too much more I can go into without getting to spoilers. That is the big core gimmick of this game, is not only are you progressing around, you know, exploring this world and, you know, fighting off enemies and progressively getting more powerful, but you're also collecting these pages of this in-game manual, which it's honestly so cool. It makes this game feel so unique from other experiences like it, which is definitely hard when especially when you have such a prolific series as Zelda, right? If you try to make a game in that style, you know, it's definitely how do you stand out from the crowd? And Tunic really does. Just that one mechanic alone, it's so unique. It's so cool, and I personally love it. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the core basics of this game. The music's very immersive. If you like, for example, the Minecraft soundtrack, you'll probably like this soundtrack as well. I will say it is a bit of a difficult game. It definitely can get difficult at times. There were some boss fights that I definitely struggled with, but it is definitely doable with time. And if you're a fan of 2D Zelda, I would highly recommend you check out this game. It's become one of my favorite. This might be my favorite Zelda-like game. I might like this more than all other 2D Zeldas. You know, it's up there for me with like Link's Awakening and stuff, and I really enjoy it. So that's kind of the spoiler-free part of this video. I'll give everybody a few seconds before we just fully dive into spoilers with some of the puzzles, because I need to gush about some of this stuff. All right, give you a few seconds. Give you a little bit. I'll probably put timestamps too. All right, spoiler part. Full spoilers. Full sending this. If you have not played this game, please stop watching. Like, I beg you, stop watching this video, because if you listen to the rest of this video and you have not played this game and you want to play this game, I'm about to ruin the game for you, because you got to experience this for yourself. One more warning. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how much stuff I wrote down in my notebook. Like, oh my God, I literally had some like mind-blowing moments. I'm just gonna load up my completed save file for you all. Like I said, do not watch this. Please, please, this is your final warning. Why do I have so many? Oh, shit, why do I have so many? Oh, which one's the right one? It's gotta be number 2. I'm pretty sure that's the New Game Plus, if I remember correctly. This is the right one, I believe. It's number 2. Yeah, all right. This game, man. I mean, first of all, we got to talk about the different items. I love the dash. The dash is so... Once I unlocked that, I'm like, what is this power to defy death? I'm like, oh, this is so cool. The different special items are really cool. I will say, like, some stuff here, like these tiles, I didn't mess around with too much. I know there's a page that, or a couple pages that explain their actual abilities, but didn't do too much with that. It kind of bothers me that the different... Like, I had to look up to see if I was maxed out on, like, attack, defense, potion, etc. And apparently I am. Apparently I maxed out. I didn't even use a guide for that at all. I'm like, all right, let me pull up a guide and try to collect the rest of these upgrades. And, like, apparently that's it. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that's what, like, IGN and other sites were telling me. The only thing I didn't do was there's one more potion upgrade, I think, from one of the merchants that I could have bought. And I did not do that. Or shards. It could be the shards as well. But we gotta talk about the big thing here. All right, we gotta talk about these puzzles. I'm going all out. If you're watching already, you do not play this game. Well, you can, but it's gonna completely ruin for you. We gotta talk about all the different ones. Let's see. I got a bunch of pages of my notebook here. The top one there was one of the secret fairies. I did do all the secret fairies, by the way. I got all of the hidden treasures and did that part. I got the good ending, and apparently I got all the upgrades. Really the only thing I didn't do, I didn't fight the air. I actually didn't do that. I was considering doing that before I collected the final page. If I had known that was going to lock me into it, maybe I would have just done it to see the bad ending. But I did not do that, and I did not get that one last potion. It's probably just buying it from a merchant, but you can see there, that was the one where you have to go out and find all the shards for the secret fairy. a bunch of stuff. You'll see a bunch of translating stuff. Wait till we get to the alphabet. Wait till we get to the cipher. But like, some of my friends came over the other night and were like, I just had the notebook sitting out and they were like, who is this madman? They're like, you're trying to like plan to murder someone? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like cryptograms. Once I figured out that it was a phonetic alphabet though, things just completely clicked for me. But you can see, like, I was writing down these symbols left and right, and it got, the one that really helped me. So first of all, to explain how I did, all right, I did use a tiny bit of a video guide to nudge me in the right direction. I did use these control pages a lot to start translating some of the runes. At one point, I was enjoying this game so much, I considered translating the entire manual, but I was like, I'm gonna be here for weeks if I do that. There's so much in here. It took me a while to translate some of these, but some of these controls pages really helped in terms of figuring out common words, you know, and what specific stuff might mean. It was this page specifically that I started with. And then also, I was looking at the weather vane, which was one of the secret fairies you can see right there. I started doing some of that there, but here we go. For those of you who maybe been curious and haven't done it yet, you have. Here's my little alphabet cipher. Well, I say alphabet, but it took me a while to realize it's a phonetic alphabet. Once I learned that, things just clicked much into place. There were a few I actually didn't get. I know you can't see what the translations are for those, but yeah, it's just I wrote way too lightly. I wrote lightly in case I got them wrong, because there were definitely some I got wrong. And then that final one for the hidden treasures room, that was really cool. Yeah, like I went maybe a little too far, but these were all the secret fairy clues, and like I started out writing out the symbols and then translating from there. But like, man, I just went so hard. You better not. Hey, if you're watching this, you better have played Tunic, or you really could not care less, because this is ruining the game for you right here. Yeah, and like some of those. Okay. Also, it took me way too long. It took me way too long to realize that the Holy Cross was the D-pad. Like, literally, I was sitting there like, you know, because so they mention it a lot. A lot of the spirits you encounter when you're in ghost form mention it. And I was like, all right, they mentioned this Holy Cross. I'm like, cool, all right. And I go to the Fairy Spring page. I'm like, all right, I probably either need the Holy Cross to do this, or once that didn't happen, I was like, oh, the final treasure they mentioned here is probably the Holy Cross. And then, like, I was like, what am I missing? And, like, I did have a little bit of a guide up, and I was like, wait a minute. And they were mentioning the line pattern, and I'm like, bro. I literally felt so stupid. But also, it's like, I mean, you wouldn't think of it outside of the game. That's what makes this game so cool, though. The meta puzzles in this game. Like, that's what made me ultimately love Tunic, is just the puzzles in the game are so... They can definitely get frustrating. I can imagine someone getting frustrated if they're not understanding it, but they're so good. They're so creative. They're so cool. And personally, listen, I love cryptograms, so I love translating stuff like this. And there were some moments where I was tripped up, but I was able to get most of it on my own. Yeah, look at, you can tell I didn't know what was going on with the Holy Cross, because I was at the point where, like, any text referencing the Holy Cross, I was trying to translate in case it meant something. Like, oh my goodness, that was great. The final page that I have here that I will show you, though, is, of course, the Golden Path, the fabled Golden Path. I was happy with myself to be able to figure that one out once I saw the page and realized that pretty much every puzzle at the end of the game is some sort of, like, D-pad combination puzzle, but, like, once I realized that, it was just great. So definitely just, I don't know, I could understand maybe, like, someone getting sick of all the line puzzles at the very end, but I thought it was just super clever. And then, final spoiler warning for the final optional puzzle in the game regarding the hidden treasures. The hidden treasures I did end up using, I love these little drawings. I did end up using a tiny bit of a guide for that, just a little bit. There were a couple, like there was the one with the weird poem. The part where you had to dip it in the water was awesome. I loved that. I think that was a shout out to Star Tropics, actually, where you had to do that in real life with the manual, right? But then the poem you had to translate, that one threw me off. There were a couple others as well that were a little more cryptic. But regarding this, right? The idea of, you know, you translate this and it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's mirrored. And so I literally, the reason why this page is ripped out is because I ripped it out of the notebook and held it up to a light. And based on that, I was able to mirror it to get the final message. And man, that message is weird. That URL, I won't say what the URL is just in case, but it is creepy. Definitely a weird thing. Maybe they're setting up a sequel? I doubt it. I think they're just kind of building out the lore. This doesn't seem like a game that will get a sequel. I mean, I will probably be there. I think I'll be there day one if they make a sequel to this. I don't think they will, but I mean, I love this game. This is one of my new favorite games of all time. I am so glad. I'm pissed I didn't play this sooner, but I am so glad I finally checked this out because man, this game is so good. Like I said in the spoiler-free part, I think this is probably my favorite traditional, at least 2D like Zelda game. So I think I like this more than Link's Awakening now. Like, and some of you may know my opinions on Link to the Past. I think this is much better than Link to the Past, to be honest. I know that's going to be considered a hot take, but this game is so worth your time. I mean, if you're watching this, you better have played it already, or you just don't care. It's so good. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. This is great. Great game. It's so meta, but I love this. Like, the little details, like everything on these pages, almost everything has significance. That's just a cute little drawing of Tunic. Like, I love that. But, like, almost everything has significance, and you can just spend hours just, like, digging into it. I know my playtime didn't show much on the save file select screen, which I think because maybe it doesn't keep track of your time when you have the manual open. I had this game running in the background so much just with the manual pages open. Like, just staring at these symbols, trying to figure out what the hell it's saying. And, like, once I got it, it just felt so good. Oh, the Golden Path, too, that puzzle, that was mind-blowing when I first encountered that. Oh my god, the part with the save file, you know, the part with the extra save file, I figured that one out on my own. I was very proud about that. But the whole Golden Puzzle, the puzzles in this game, once you get them, you feel so damn smart. That's what I love. Some games, like, especially in Zelda games, I'm going to say, final time, I promise I will bring up Zelda. So many times in that game, like, you do a puzzle and it's more just like rewarding, like, oh, I got an item, or like, oh, cool, like, that's great. Satisfying. These puzzles make you feel so smart. Like, the reward is, like, you get a reward, but you also, some of the reward is just solving the puzzle itself. That's what I love. I love puzzles like that. I would love for 2D, like, if they make 2D traditional Zelda games, which I'm still hoping that they take inspiration from Tunic. Maybe don't go the whole meta concept of the game manual, but still, like, puzzles that are more creative like that. I don't know. I think that'd be really, really cool, but maybe that's asking too much. I don't know. With that, this video is already going on long enough. I could gush about this game all day. You better not be watching it if you haven't played it, but you better stop watching this video. If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What you think about this game. If you like it, if you don't, let me know why. I'd be curious to know. And man, great game. The replayability, not as much there. That's probably the biggest problem I have with the game is I don't know if I'll ever go back and replay it because that mystery's kind of gone. But it's a fun enough game to at least control anyway, so maybe I will. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to see this, and I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, take care.